Hey Dennis, how's it going, man?
Hey Faisal, I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking. What's good in your world there in Pakistan?
It's not good, man. I had to get out for supplies this afternoon,
Oh yeah.
and I have been out only twice in 8 weeks. So what I saw out there was scary. I mean, locked down my foot. There are people bloody out there all over the place. I mean,
Yeah.
in fact, I wasn't planning on this, but I've got my card from my dash cam plugged in. In fact, right here. Um, you know what? Maybe I can show you a bit what
Yeah,
I
that'd be
saw.
great.
And, uh, and I was live, and at one point I just started cussing, and I was like, "What the?" And I was like, "Jesus Christing a lot," and people, you can imagine what happened to my timeline after that, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
So, so, here was the crazy part. All right. So these guys actually, there was a massive traffic jam. So I had to go through the back streets and figure out, and I came here where the traffic jam was. So they had this check post. Yeah, notice this check post. So
Yes.
they have this little hole where they're letting one lane through. All right, and behind that, notice on the left, I'm in the service lane, and you can see traffic piling up.
Yes.
And these guys are just look at this.
Yeah, it's a lot of traffic.
No, it gets worse. And
Goodness
after,
break.
no, and because people thought there is a problem up front, so people started turning back on the wrong side of the road and just turning away.
Oh wow.
Look at this. Look at the cars turning back.
Wow. Well, I don't blame them. I mean, I think that that's actually probably they're probably realizing they're not going to get anywhere.
No,
What do you
because no, no,
think?
no. Why the hell was this check post there? What's the bloody point? And the number of cars. And okay, so then I went to other areas. Let me just find the correct piece. That would be about. Oh, I made a. Wait a minute. I created a sort of a montage of that because I was sharing on my groups. I should have sent it to you. Hang on. Um, oh, that was unplanned. Sorry about this. But I want the world to see what the hell we're doing here. Yeah. Okay. So here goes. Yeah, check this out. So this is the kind of traffic. Whoa. This is the kind of traffic that was on the bloody streets
Now,
this afternoon.
is this so pre-COVID? Pre-COVID is this
Exactly the same.
is okay. So it's typical traffic patterns.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's typical traffic. Yeah. Everyone's out. It's cool.
Yeah.
And I came to this coolest lady here, who's got into a tiff with the beggar. So she snatched his stick.
Wow.
So so this is my dash cam, which was not recording my audio, but I was live, and I was just losing my mind. I was just cussing away. That what the f, man. So I
Yeah,
think
that's
I
a
think
lot.
I think the government has completely failed.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think at the same time, and it's interesting that we're talking about self-sabotage today because I think
Exactly,
at the same
exactly.
time that, it's like the government will put out guidelines. However, we still have some ownership in this, right? I mean, the crazy part is here in the United States, we've actually been having we've been having protests, as I'm sure that you've seen
Yeah,
from the media. And the
yeah,
really interesting thing is that people are holding signs saying we have the right to put our lives at risk. That's our
yeah,
constitutional right. And it's just like,
yeah.
are we
But that,
really going to
that
fight for our rights to be stupid? I mean, what are we exactly fighting for? That just makes no sense. It's like I want the right to stab myself in the face and not have to go to the hospital. I just and I don't want it to hurt either. So
That's
Fezzi,
that's
Fezzi was saying?
yeah, that's exactly started here as well in Canada, in Ontario. There are some like crazy people. They came out day before yesterday, and they have started the same thing. They have the same placards, and then the same thing, that why do we have to stay inside? So
mhm.
I don't know. And then they went to the Queen's Park over here, and they start protesting.
Oh, so you're having protests in Canada as well?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now I don't
Yeah.
feel
No. So that
now I don't feel alone.
no. Yeah, that's fine. So these are the same people, exactly what kind of people you have over there. So they are, they just don't want to do anything. They just don't even think that what they are getting into.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. It's a really interesting, as a behaviorist, as somebody that studies human behavior, it's a really interesting time for observation of human behavior. Like there's a lot of it I just really don't understand. And other than as a species, we seem to go against our own best interests in so many different ways.
So interesting
Yeah.
that is our topic today, self-sabotage. So it's not that we have to convince them to stay safe. People are actually consciously willing to destroy their lives of the families, lives of the loved ones, and so okay, let's start with this only. Let's not get about careers, whatever.
Yeah.
Why, Dennis? Why do you think people do that?
Why do people go against their own best interests?
Yeah,
I think because in a
and
lot of ways-
especially in a situation like this one.
No.
well,
Okay.
I think yeah, Fessy, please.
I have one thing to say. Even you know what, Faisal, just like you're saying that why people do that, and I'm sorry to say that. In my own family, we have people like this over here in Canada. Believe me or not, they don't care. They don't care. I really don't know.
I mean, they don't care about what? They don't care about dying?
They don't care about anything. Oh, come on, it's nothing. You will be fine. Why don't you come over? I said, what the hell are you talking about? And you know that I'm not even going to see my grandkid since like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So my
No,
and
but
even if I
no.
come-
When you say they don't care, I don't understand. What do you mean they don't care? I mean, are they
They don't care about-
stupid? Do people
They
not
are-
understand? I mean, look at the comment on the screen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just look at this comment. What the hell do you do, man? Check the. Oh no, this is not it. Let me share some comments. Check this out.
Oh my God. You cannot do anything.
I'm just going to say, like, I find it interesting that we are using terms like draconian, and I think what we're all trying to do is we're all trying to figure out something that is new, and I think it's asking that we take and be a little bit patient as citizens, and I think we have just I will only speak for the United States and not everywhere else. I'm not a broadcaster, nor have I paid that much attention to it since like FQ has and stuff. But I just think for the last 4 years, we have really been hammered with the media is wrong, the media lies. There's been so much hyperbole. We're using words like fascism. We're using words like draconian lockdowns. And I think that all of that, here in the United States, we do have a democracy. However, what we have seen here is it's almost a resurgence of the don't tread on me type of mentality of that. It's almost like a 3-year-old child stomping their feet going, "You're not the boss of me."
Literally.
I just
literally.
I don't really understand. As far as the quarantine and the science behind it, I don't know. I see a lot of people, I think it's too new for a lot of people to know. I am not an infectious
Guys,
disease expert at all.
read this comment.
Yeah.
Read this comment.
Yeah, read it.
I
mean,
can't, I can't speak
what,
to
of
that.
cour-
I don't live in Michigan.
I mean, yes, but no, but it is your right to make money and feed your children. But you know what? Actually, actually, child protection services, man. If
Yeah.
you do this to your children, I'm sorry, but you know what? What stupidity! Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get personal or being offensive here, but this is ridiculous. How can people do? Yes, of course. If you are in a situation where you have no money, if you're in a situation where you don't have food, fine. The state or people or society needs to come in and help those people. But nothing beyond that. If you don't have a massive emergency, in my books, you're not coming out, right?
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say is here in the U.S., one of the things, as a business consultant and especially from a human resources perspective, and I know I don't want to get off on that topic today, is that's not what this is about. But from one of the things I'm managing as a human resources consultant is how many employees are asking to be laid off or terminated. Because currently right now what's happened is employees that are working every day are currently making less money. Many people that are asking to be terminated right now, they can literally go home and sit and do nothing and make $300 to $600 more per week. So as a business consultant, we're dealing with that as well. Is employees coming to us saying, terminate me right now, and if we don't terminate them or lay them off, then they're getting terminated for cause. Either way, they're still entitled to unemployment benefits, which are greatly increased right now. So I don't have a lot of solutions. All I can say is that we as far as community, but each of us as an individual has some ownership in our part in this. So I think I think it comes down to personal and social responsibility. Does the quarantine work? I don't know. I think I think that we just have to kind of wait for time. Time will tell, and we'll know whether it's worked or not. We'll see. The United States is getting ready to open back up, so we're already.
No, hang on. No. If quarantine doesn't work, nothing works.
I'm saying I don't know.
You're up the potty creek. If quarantine doesn't work, you're finished.
Well, right, but now you also have a whole, like, I believe that there's other countries that are practicing what the herd immunity theory, and again, I am not an expert. Not an expert.
No. Hang on. I know we're talking about self-sabotage. We're going on, but we are talking about self-sabotage. Herd immunity has a cost. By the time the herd community kicks in, explain that to the bloke who dies. Explain that to the family who lose a loved one. Explain that to the people who suffer tremendously before herd immunity happens.
Sure.
I'm sorry, yes, okay, herd immunity will eventually help somebody, but in the process of herd immunity, it's going to really F people up, man. I'm sorry, I'm going to go as far as saying it's going to fuck people up. That's ridiculous. I know Boris Johnson was talking about herd immunity. After he got it, I don't think he's talking about it anymore. And I think there's news on the screen. Bina, can you confirm?
It's not on Geo, but on Dunia, yes, it's
On Dunia, well, they're saying the governor of Sindh has been tested positive. Governor of governor of the Sindh province in Pakistan apparently has been tested positive. I'm not sure. I'm not confirmed. I'm not sitting in front of the TV. Bina is. She's watching as soon as it comes, or it's not. Well, it is confirmed. It is confirmed. It's on my WhatsApp feed. Yeah. Governor Sindh tests positive for COVID-19. Yeah. It's confirmed. So you see, now here's the thing. You can't keep messing with this, man. It's not cool.
We'll see. I mean, I think look at the United States.
It's actually his own. He's tweeted himself from his own account. What a Freudian slip. I think he wanted to say taught, and he's typed thought. What a Freudian slip. Changes the whole sentence.
Yes, it does.
I mean, yes, it does. It's a seriously Freudian slip there.
So, FQ, where I think that this really comes in and kind of does some of the questions over here and how this really falls into self-sabotage is that, self-sabotage, it rears its ugly head in three primary categories. And those categories are control, rejection, and deprivation. And I think that you can take maybe not so much the rejection, however, you can take and put control and deprivation into the COVID situation right now, meaning that I'm not allowed to go outside, so I'm being deprived of fun. The government is telling me to stay inside. If I go outside, my neighbors are going to take my picture and post me on Facebook, and now I'm going to get shamed for going outside. So we don't necessarily, we feel controlled. However, we don't like being controlled. So in control, rejection, and deprivation, these aren't necessarily big, psychological concepts. They're more about positions that we put ourselves in, and we end up feeling controlled. We feel rejected, or we feel deprived. Right now, a lot of people are feeling very, very controlled. And I'll just speak to the U.S., again, because the fascism, draconian, and these types of heavy words are being thrown around. Now we're talking about liberating. We're calling people patriots that go out and protest. So I think to me, this is, in some ways, the protests, they're a way for certain people to kind of gain control and not feel controlled. Because as humans, at the end of the day, as humans, we just really don't like to be told no, and we don't like to be told what to do. So I think that that's what's happening.
Well,
and again,
let me try to parallel a different situation. People who drive recklessly, people who'd be playing around with a loaded gun. And I'm talking about mature people. You never got a loaded gun. What were you doing messing with it? Yeah, it's that overconfidence. Okay, I'm going to relate self-sabotage to overconfidence, and I've been saying this for years on my TV shows, that accidents are called accidents for a reason. Because you can't preempt them, and when you least expect, and they screw you up forever. That's what's called an accident, and that is the reason to do stupid things, because you can have an accident. So, I want to take into that. If doctors and nurses can go with precautions, why can't everybody else? Now, this is freaking me out. The police goes out, the National Guard goes out in situations, doesn't mean everybody goes out. And doctors and nurses are at severe risk. Then you add to their work. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Well, and if I could just take a minute, and here's the other side of this, coming from a perspective of being a firefighter and a paramedic for 25 years, is if you've tested positive, we don't all know whether we're we don't know whether we're positive or not, especially if we're asymptomatic. And the thing is that, every time we go out, when we don't really need to go out, we're risking like getting into a car accident. We risk getting into a car accident, and now the firefighters and the paramedics are coming, and we're exposing them. So, and the other thing is, why would I want to be exposed? I don't want a firefighter or a paramedic coming into my window right now. They're exposed to everybody right now. So I just think that we need to, I think we need to kind of look at things a little bit different. I come from a safety perspective, from like the thing about the gun and that sort of thing, is that, I come from a philosophy of, if you can predict it, you can prevent it. You talk about guns and stuff, and over here in the U.S., like we literally have people that think it's just totally wrong that children are not coming out of the womb with a gun in their hand. It is just such a birthright. So I can't tell you the number. I've lost count. I lost count of how many people ended up losing their lives or taking their children's lives, all because of playing with a gun. This isn't hyperbole. I was literally there when it happened. So again, if you can predict it, you can prevent it. I am taking my lead on quarantine from the people that are experts. And I'm just going to come out and say, just because somebody has a doctor in front or after their name doesn't mean that they necessarily know what's going on in this situation. The same as me. I don't either. My doctorate's in a whole different category.
No, even if you're a medical doctor, even if you're working in the healthcare and hospitals, even then, listen, I've done interviews with doctors in the past 1 week. They're like, for God's sake, please don't make our lives add to our trouble, our job. It's easy for us to handle you, so please don't get sick.
Yes.
See, the thing is also, if a lot of people feel, okay, I'm going to give you my own personal example. We were traveling all of February. We came back 26th February. I've been in lockdown since 26th of February. It's 27th April now, 2 months. All right? While my parents and my extended family lives downstairs. We're in the same house, upstairs, downstairs. For the past 2 months, I haven't sat on their sofas. Every few hours, I say hello to them standing. I wash my hands before I go. I would be standing, see my parents, my family, my sister, children. I would just say hello, and we just quietly come back up. We haven't eaten together in 2 months because you know what? We are in a different isolation zone here. They have a different isolation zone. Bina and I have isolated ourselves here. We have, we have our own coming in. We have groceries, infection. I don't want to bring their infection here. It's just common sense, not necessarily for myself, but also for my family, people around us. Bina and I are in one zone. Rest of the family right here downstairs in a different zone.
Yeah.
You know what? It's okay. This will pass. God willing, this will pass.
And there it is. I agree. I think it's just,
Just hold your bloody horses, man. Calm down.
Right. I agree. And I just wanted to answer one of the questions by Dr. Fab MD is just that, the question about if nurses and doctors and stuff who are on the front lines can go to work with protection. I'll only speak to the U.S. There's very, very limited supplies. And so kind of, as a collective, I think it was decided that, citizens, regular civilians not on the front lines would not use masks, gloves, and, PPE, if you will, so that the healthcare workers would have access to it. So I think that the healthcare workers need it more than I do right now. As far as truthfully, is like I was deemed essential. I was deemed essential anyway. I can go out and do whatever I want because I work with restaurants. But however, the thing is like why would I take and walk around town and then go visit a restaurant? That's on lockdown or only using a drive-through. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think we, instead of looking at how does this personally impact me, I think it's a really good opportunity to look at how does my behavior really actually impact other people. And I think a lot of times we just don't necessarily consider all of that.
Exactly. And I interviewed some doctors COVID special ward, Urdu. I did it about 4 days ago. And they were like, you know what, we don't have enough PPEs. There's a serious shortage of PPEs, which is a personal protection equipment. And they said, so we have to, every time we put it on, we have to keep it on. And they can't go to the bathroom because if they go to the bathroom, they waste the suit. So I'm like, how are you managing? And they go, well, we stop drinking water 2 hours before we go in.
Right.
And we don't have water for 7 hours just so we don't have to go pee. Come on. You know what? Anybody who's taking that lightly, screw you, man.
Yeah, I don't.
You guys are way out of line. Okay, people are talking about Sweden. I know we're completely off topic here. I think we're off topic, sort of. What's happening in Sweden? I'm not up to date.
I think what's happening is I think that they've handled this a little bit different. I don't think that they did a full quarantine, and I understand. I've read a little bit of this. However, I like a lot of other people, like I'm a little distrusting of the media. So I don't know what to believe anymore, and I think that that's really, really common. So I don't really, and as far as the science behind what Sweden's doing, I'm not, I'm not that smart. So it's just not my field of study. And let's see. For someone who has to stay in long lines at the food bank, work is essential. I agree that there's essential services. I think where I'm at, Dr. Fab, is just that in the state that I currently live in, we really didn't do a lockdown. It was mainly this is a strong suggestion. So nobody here in my state is being shut down by the police or anything like that. In fact, what I've seen is a lot of the schools are providing a lot of meals for families and for children because we even as much food as we produce, we still have a lot of hunger in our country.
You have to understand, Sweden is also not safe. But you can't take and into Kuala Lumpur because of population density. People are the people behave. There's a science to it. So you know what? We take Sweden philosophy and stick it on Pensacola Beach in Florida. So it may. I don't think it's even there because doesn't mean it's not. Okay, let's go back to the topic. Self-sabotage.
Yes.
Why? Why the reason people self-sabotage? I think people have a habit of there are two ways of self-sabotage. Self-sabotage. One is emotional and internal, where and we should talk about that, where we are having internal conversations. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. And you're just basically holding yourself. Other self-sabotage is physical, where actions are detrimental and they can be predicted that they're going to go wrong, and yet we make those, like what we've been talking about right now. So there are two kinds of self-sabotage. One is internal and the other is external. So Dennis, we've been talking about external. Let's come to the internal now for a bit.
Yeah. Well, the internal, again, like I was saying, is that it all comes down to control, rejection, or deprivation. As humans, none of us like, oh, I just threw my pen. As humans, none of us like any of these emotions. I don't like to feel rejected. I certainly don't like to feel deprived. And, I definitely don't like to feel controlled. What it comes down to, the internal part of this, FQ, is that our belief systems and our thought process and that creates the way that we set up going about creating an outcome. That internal dialogue is so important in this because and that belief system. Because if I believe that if I believe I'm not good enough, but I'm going to try to go forward with something, the chances of me actually being successful are greatly reduced. So I think that the internal part comes to, it really gets to looking at how you have to ask yourself the question, how did I create this outcome? So many times we put ourselves in situations to feel controlled. It's not necessarily that somebody is controlling us. It's just that we end up feeling controlled by a situation. Case in point, I started down a new path with my business, and I wanted to do this. This is something I wanted to do. But at the end of the day, what happened is that I ended up, it got so big, it got so busy, I didn't manage the growth. There were so many things involved with it that now I had a project that I had to complete, and I felt completely controlled by the project. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, is putting ourselves in a situation to where we end up feeling controlled, rejected, or deprived. Not somebody else doing this to us from an external perspective, but that's the internal. We put ourselves in a position to fail emotionally.
Is it just that we put ourselves in that position, or the situation can also be detrimental at times? I mean, it can't just be that, if I'm feeling compelled or trapped in a sin, I can break up. Maybe it's my internal warning system warning me against a real situation. How do you differentiate between the two?
Well, I think it comes down to learning how to ask yourself better questions or different questions, and because we always assume that we have the answer, like I'm doing this because of this. It's kind of like when I work with a new entrepreneur and or a new business owner or somebody that tells me that they want to start a business. I'm like, why do you want to start the business? And of course, all you hear is excitement. Oh, this is so good. There's such a need in the market. And I ask them, I'm like, okay, excellent. So you have your business plan done? Yes. I'm like, cool. Now I want you to figure out a business plan for this, an emotional one. They're like, yeah, what's that? I said, how will you personally F this up? And I don't think we ask ourselves that question enough. Because here's the deal, FQ. Like, I am really prone to procrastination. I am prone to procrastination. So do I think that it's not even a realistic thought to think that I can start a business that I'm so excited about that I won't bring procrastination into that. So it's just about taking a very real look. Another case in point. How will I personally mess something up? I was recently before all of this happened, I was in play. I had made an offer on a business. But in the process of doing my due diligence, I started really talking to employees and stuff like that. The question is how will I take and screw this up personally? At the end of the day, the type of people that work in this industry, I'm not going to be able to work with them. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that I don't like them. They come from a different perspective than what I do. So for me to move forward with that, trying to grow a certain business with employees that don't want to grow, all that would create is sabotage for me. Survival. That's interesting. Man,
Yeah.
Yeah, survival. Dr. Fab, I'm talking about something internal here to where it's not necessarily like other people doing this to us. It's how we put ourselves in situations to suck or to feel bad or to feel controlled or to set ourselves up to fail emotionally. And I think we do that more to ourselves than anybody externally ever does. I mean, the truth is I tell myself no way more than anybody else ever does.
I think only we destroy ourselves. And even if somebody external does it to us, it's because we let them do it.
That's correct. We gave them our power.
Of course, you're right. If you're a child, if you're dependent, that's a different discussion.
Of course.
But if you are, even if you're young and starting up, even if you are, let's say 25, but still young, and you don't have independent means, you're still vulnerable. But once you have independent means and you're playing in the big guys, adult arena, then only you can screw yourself up, either directly or indirectly, by proxy or yourself. But then only you can do it. Once you've reached the area of independence, and when I say independence, I mean, some kind of financial independence. If you have your own job, if you're living on your own, you're doing your own thing, you're married, then you can't blame anybody else. I mean, I've gone through some serious shit in my life. So, self-sabotage par excellence.
Yep.
But even, luckily I had the sense, even at that time, I could have blamed people around me for doing that. But I always said, I had the choice not to do it. Sure, somebody was prodding me, somebody was pushing me in that direction, but I, as a 28 or a 30-year-old adult, had a choice to not do it. I chose to do it, or I chose to let the other person do something to me. It was my choice. And eventually, when you do react and get out of the situation, well, how come you did it now? You could have done that 10 years ago as well. Or you could have done that yesterday as well. So, you had the choice then and now. Then you let it happen. Now you got out of it. So you're completely responsible for the shit that happens to you, correct?
Yes. Barring there is an external force. I mean, I have not self-sabotaged because I have not self-sabotaged simply because COVID came, but me taking and being, not following guidelines. So whether quarantine or not, without going down that road, but if I have to run out for supplies, do I get this close to the cashier? I keep my distance. I do things, why would I put myself at risk? And this is what we end up doing. We end up putting ourselves at risk emotionally. So it's not so much about somebody else doing things. I mean, when somebody else does something to us, that's different.
Okay, you know what? Interesting. I just realized, I haven't been out twice. I've been out thrice. I completely forgot this one event. I had made a commitment in January to appear on a TV show. So when I came back from Malaysia and I had locked myself down, I had to make good of that promise. And I think it was the 29th of February or around then when this had not really happened. And I had to go to the TV channel. And I went with the mask and the shit. And people, I walk in there and they wanted to hug and kiss. I'm like, we're not going to happen. I'm going to keep my distance. And people were so bloody offended that one person refused to sit with me when the host said, why don't you come sit here? And he goes, oh, no, Mr. Qureshi does not like when people sit next to him. I'm like, dude, there's a problem out there, for God. And people, I was the only idiot, and people thought I was a joke.
Right.
So when I sat on the chair in the studio, I said, clean the bloody thing first. I'm not going to sit on this. And you know, this is like end February when it had not really, you know, shit hadn't hit the fan then. But people were just, you know, just taking it too lightly. And it's like you were saying, you go to a grocery store, you're not going to stick your face, you're not going to handle money.
Right.
I mean, since you know, early February, thankfully, Malaysia had contactless payment. So I was doing contactless cards. I'm not going to let you touch my card.
Sure.
And then and the one time I went to the shops, we had a plan. My credit card, Bina had in her hand, and I was responsible for putting stuff in the cart. When we came to the payment, Bina pulled the card out, which was already ready, so I wouldn't touch my wallet. You know, you just have to be slightly smart about this.
Yeah.
How difficult is that? Okay, now we have news on Sweden. Thank you for Ms. Danish who's come up with the answer to what's happening in Sweden. So you know, there you go.
Great without in other country is the people who religiously follow the social distancing rules. They are well equipped with fastest internet. Interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Dinesh.
and here's
that's-
another one.
I really appreciate that. I was not aware of that.
Yeah,
I
nor
hope
was
to
I.
visit there
Check
when
this out.
everything opens up.
Check this out. Check this out.
Wow, that's great. I mean, here in the U.S., we're seeing, you know, people getting food deliveries and stuff, and then the the delivery drivers spitting on the boxes. Like we're seeing that almost every day now. It's so I don't understand that type of behavior at all.
Okay, Shariar, you have joined in, but I will not connect you until you turn your camera on. So you need to put your camera on before I let you into the room. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I'll have to remove you from the chat. I'm not sure what this means. There are two different classes. One is way too scary, the other one vice versa.
So I'd like to address Dr. Fab's comment about hunger and desperation always takes priority
Yeah.
in developing nations amongst the poor in the world. You know what, Dr. Fab, I'm going to defer to you on that one. I don't really travel to a lot of developing countries, and you know whether that's, you know, it's just the way it has been for me. So I do believe though, you know, desperation absolutely fuels this. And please understand, I think this conversation, a lot of times when you're talking about hunger, you're talking at the very, very bottom of Maslow's pyramid. So we're not even being taken care of. So self-actualization, that's so far out of the realm at that point, because we're hungry. And listen, I have been in situations, I wouldn't say that they were self-sabotage, but you know, as somebody that you know, living on the streets for a while, you know, I wanted to eat as well. I didn't like committing crimes, but that's what I needed to do. Do I look at that as self-sabotage? No, because that was desperation. Self-sabotage is a conscious choice. Self-sabotage is a conscious choice, meaning
Yes.
that if I go into I don't have food, and I go to the food line, and they say, well, you can't have this and you can't have this, but we'll give you this. Now what it is that now I say, well, I don't want that, and I punch somebody. That punch is the self-sabotage part, because I didn't get what I want. I hope that
and
that
also, you know,
makes sense.
and so also I'm going to add here the hunger and desperation. I mean, Dr. Fab is a fake account, obviously, no picture. I know what a fake account is like. So but you know, he's giving us content, so it's all right. He's giving us something to talk about and somebody to bash. That's fine. But you know what? In Pakistan, at least, trust you me, there is no hunger and desperation. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. The philanthropy is at its peak in Pakistan. People are, you know, if somebody needs food, if somebody needs help, trust me, there are enough people, enough organizations who are willing to take care of that problem. And you know what? If you don't value life, you can make all kinds of excuses you want. Yeah, it's up to you. No one's going to stop you. If you want to make, you know, I mean, I was having a conversation this afternoon. People want to go to mosques. People want to go to work. Hey, do it, man. Go for it. The thing is, I'm going to talk Pakistan only. Pakistan has hit, I don't know, Bina, what's the count today?
It's like 13,000 something.
So, yeah. So Pakistan is adding a substantial number of people every day. Wow. Yeah? So the thing is, if you want to take this number to 100,000, go for it. It's the nature of the beast. And you know, arguments, discussions, talk shows, conversations are going to change it. People are going to self-sabotage. You know what? United Kingdom self-sabotaged. Iran self-sabotaged. Spain self-sabotaged. And United States of America self-sabotaged. You had all these countries had advanced warning. Iran was busy saying, oh, it's a conspiracy against whatever, whoever. You know, US was saying, big deal. Italy, It's exactly what Philadelphia did in 1918. You know, while the rest of the world was flattening the curve, Philadelphia was having a bloody parade. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, our history books over here on that topic have been
silent
or a little different.
I mean, no, the pictures from that thing. Netflix just released a short documentary on understanding coronavirus. And they talk about the whole thing, how Philadelphia screwed up. And Singapore is a brilliant case. They opened too early, they learned, and they shut down. Now they have a crazy spike, 800 cases like a day.
Right.
And they had it under control in you know, early March. It was all in control. And now it's ballistic. So the thing is, it is self-sabotage at its best. And if somebody wants to do it, hey, go for it, la.
Well, I just look at, I look at self-sabotage as kind of the ultimate way that we set ourselves up to fail. And you can always like look back at this, and if we're trying to be truly transparent with ourselves, and how that we set ourselves up to fail in many ways. And I have a really easy example, and that is that for a while there was a vehicle that I really wanted, and I really liked the way that it felt. I drove it. It like I was able to get up to 130 miles an hour. Of course, yes, that was illegal, but I was able to get up fast. I loved the way that this thing felt. And, the price was right, everything else. However, I never talked to anybody about it. I never talked to anybody that owned that vehicle. And after I got that vehicle, what I found was like each tire was $450 to replace. My battery cost almost $600 to replace, and I couldn't do it myself. So at the end of the day, because I didn't get all of the information, I never looked at the other side. I never considered the unintended consequences of an action. After 2 years, I finally got rid of that car. I got rid of that car simply because it became it was controlling me. I felt controlled by that car, and now I ended up feeling like, wow, now I have this payment, I can't get something else, so now I'm deprived of something I actually wanted. So what we say that we want isn't always what we want. So I just think we really need to we need to think about how to take and really be specific with the outcomes that we want.
You know what? Interesting the way you worded it. You are hostage. You enslave yourself in your own choices.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to do that. I think two things happen, Dennis. One, self-respect and self-assessment in any culture of the world is not taught to children. That is just not part of the fundamental upbringing. Just knowing who you are, valuing yourself. It's not part of any country or any culture. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, I can't speak to that, but that would stand to reason. That would stand to reason, and I think because academics has gotten to where it's focused on benchmarks and what's coming after, what's coming next. It's this constant progression as opposed to actually of teaching like life skills. And to me, a life skill is learning how to take and reflect, how to do those self-assessments.
So the reason I put that up is, Dennis, come on, you're new to this game, all right? Now this is also a fake account. So this is fake account versus fake account.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, a real account comments like this.
Yeah, I get that. I think it is also, though, there's always another side, and so I'm actually appreciative. I don't necessarily have to agree with everybody, and I think that's what makes the world wonderful. I just I think we all come at things from a very different perspective, and so even those that take a different position can actually, I think, can add value in some ways. So it's I've appreciated it because I think it's kept us talking, and it's really kind of kept us in this whole thing. And I want to go back to a comment that I saw in the feed earlier, which is that people want to get back to work. People want to get back to the grocery store. They want to get back to life. And there's the biggest first step. That statement, I want. First step in self-sabotage. Because all we're looking at is what it is that we want, as opposed to what is it that I need. If I want this, how can I go about it in a way that is the best in my best interest? It's kind of like as a union president many years ago, we would get our membership together and go, this is the political party and candidate that we're supporting. This is who we're supporting. They support our interests. Every year, FQ, I would get back, screw you. You don't control us. We're going to do what we want. And then they get really upset. They get really, really upset that the politician that ends up getting into office isn't sensitive or to what it is that we put them in place for. And the reality is we didn't get our way. And because when we put a politician into place, it was to give us the benefits that we wanted. I mean, at the end of the day, that was the deal.
By definition, a politician will not do whatever you wanted him to do. That's the definition of a politician. He's just using you to get into position. That's all you're useful for. Whatever deals one makes to get into power are, anyway, we're getting political, screw that. And now, all these fake accounts, of course, there are human beings behind it, because I'm gonna take this on. It can be fun. It's not a fake account, show you proof. Dr. Fab, if you're not a fake account, come here. Let's just click on this link and come join us with your face. Come on. Let's see you say all this with your face. Put your face to it. Yeah? It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it.
It reminds me of a saying, that thou dost protest too much. Like developing countries.
Okay, interesting point. He said crime is going to surge. You know what? Actually not. Globally, crime has gone down. The only thing which is seeing a spike is complaints of domestic violence. I read that in some place today. There's a spike in complaints of domestic violence, and crime, and especially serious crime, has nosedived because even they're scared shitless.
Sure, too. I am not. Well, I would love to talk to somebody that has a dissenting opinion, because I would appreciate talking to somebody that has a dissenting opinion than mine, so that I could learn. So I'm asking, come on and add some value to me. I would really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tariq. Finally, common sense.
So I can't speak to the crime rate. I don't really know. However, the domestic violence doesn't really surprise me. In fact, I am actually going to be doing a live broadcast on another platform here in a couple of days with a divorce attorney, because we're planning here in the U.S., we're planning on once we're open back up, we're anticipating a big surge in the divorce rate. So the divorce attorneys over here, they're like, it's almost like chum for them. They're getting all ready to swoop in.
So is the show back on? Is the show back on?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
It'll be
the
later,
show with you.
It'll be
with
later
your friend.
Later this week or next week. Yeah, it'll be.
I thought you guys decided it's not going to happen.
No, well, that guy decided it wasn't going to happen. I've decided to move on with somebody else.
Oh, okay,
Because
great.
I think it's a very timely topic. You know, a lot of people went
Yeah.
into. I know this isn't self-sabotage, but you know, people went into the quarantine, and their relationships weren't necessarily in the greatest of places anyway. So maybe it was just
Yeah.
everything was going along complacent. You know, like autopilot type of like everybody's relationship gets into. However, now that we're locked down with each other, you know, it's like I said yesterday morning. My wife and I, we truly love each other. We are hardcore with our communication boundaries and rules of engagement, and yet we argued yesterday morning on our way to our workout. And what we were arguing about was the
Yeah.
workout while we were going to our workout. So, you know, you look back at those things, it's like, I look back at that and I'm like, man, how did I end up engaging in this type of a conversation, especially at like 5 o'clock in the morning? It just didn't make a lot of sense. So I think if we just really are...
So that
ahead.
was absolute self-sabotage, right?
100% self-sabotage. And what it came down to is that my wife made a comment. So she made a comment and I'm like, well, I'm going to take offense at that. I mean,
Okay.
that's owning it in my. I'm owning what I'm. That part of that is I wanted to be offended, and I think sometimes we have to admit, like, hey, you know what? I don't want a solution right now. I just want to be mad, and that's okay too. I think we just need to acknowledge it.
Right.
Taking
okay,
it out
now,
on somebody else is different, but
I have Mr. Mudassir Butt here, and I would like him to join in. Mudassir, I would love to hear your comments. If you're up to it, please click on this link. Rizwan, you need to turn your camera on. Your browser needs permissions for that. So if you put your camera on, I'll connect you. Oh God, Dr. Fab, you know what? I'm going to remove you. This is becoming interesting, yeah? It's just entertainment, man. It's just
perhaps somebody
entertainment.
perhaps he doesn't want to join us because he's afraid of, you know, they're afraid of sabotaging themselves.
Well, I
Actually
think
coming on the
he's
air.
listening to. I think he's learned. He's not self-sabotaging himself. Well done.
Hey, there you go. Absolutely, and I think it's I just think it's really important that we look at how we end up making these decisions that end up creating these feelings for us, the control, rejection, or deprivation. And again, this isn't, people do think external is a little bit different, but I think sometimes we have to ask ourselves is how did I put myself in this situation? Even if somebody like punches me in the face, which is a crime, but like, how did I put myself in that situation? Did I spout off? Did I make an offensive comment, which I know I'm prone to doing? Was I a smartass? Maybe I put myself in a position to get popped in the nose. I just think that there's so much personal accountability that goes into the results and the outcomes that we get that a lot of times we just try to like negate and make it that there was some external influence. Sometimes there is. But was the external, it's like we talked about with COVID. Did that happen to me, or is it happening, or did it happen to screw with Dennis? I'm not that important for a virus to screw with me.
There you go. And it is happening with, okay.
Hey, Mudassar. Thank you for joining
Okay,
us.
Now Mudassir is a phenomenal cartoonist.
1 minute, let me just turn off the light.
He's a cartoonist, and he also does online, he teaches how to do cartoons. Wow. I ran into him at a coffee shop one afternoon. I saw a group of really bohemian kind of people sitting in a coffee shop, and when they walked up to me, said hello, and they were a group of cartoonists.
Wow.
And this gentleman is one of them. If you look at his
Mad props, man.
check out his DP.
At a coffee shop, one afternoon, I saw a group of really bohemian kind of people saying,
Okay, Mudassir, you need to turn your volume down or wear a headset. You're creating an echo.
and they walked up. Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, but you need to turn your volume down or wear a headset.
Okay, I need headphones. 1 minute, let me just get my
Yeah,
headphones ready.
that'll kill the echo.
I'm so glad he's joining us. Like I can't even begin to tell you how like envious I am of people that have drawing abilities. If I had the ability to draw, like I doubt I would have ended up looking like this. I mean, I can't draw, so I became the canvas.
That's one way of looking at it.
Wow, look at that. Super impressed.
So this is a group actually, a bunch of people. I met like there were 3 or 4 of them, and it's really very nice. They do great work. Anyways, so we'll have a chat with Mudassir, but let's conclude what we were talking about. Self-sabotage is a real thing. Self-sabotage at times can be just an advance warning of a situation, but you have to but you cannot get caught in self-sabotage, and no one can hurt you unless you let them hurt you. Am I summarizing it right, Dennis? And you also have to question why whatever you're doing, why are you doing what you're doing, and why is it happening, correct?
Yes, and again, the biggest question that one can ask themselves is, how did I put myself in this position? You know, it's a little bit of a more of a complex process to learn. So I would encourage anybody, like anybody on here that's watching, please feel free to connect with me on Facebook, and we can continue. You know, we can IM and continue the conversation. And you know, if anybody is like struggling with self-sabotage or would like some tools, like I encourage you to connect with me, and then let's set up a time for us to communicate about that. Because it's really not it doesn't go as deep psychologically as we like to make it. We just like to look at ourselves like we're just so much more complex than what we really are. So that's what I have on that. So thanks, FQ, and I really want to hear more from Mudassir.
So Mudassir, let's hear what you have to say. Mudassir's not wearing his headset right now. He's setting up a whole rig, man. Let's give him a moment.
Yeah.
So on the chat, on the comments, there's a Dr. Fab and Tariq and all these people they're having an all out. Relax, guys. It's all right. It's chill.
Social worker. You know, and all I would say to Dr. Fab, you know, as a social worker and seeing what the poor are doing, I think that I don't know that this conversation is really like necessarily about people that are in desperate times and situations. So while I appreciate that and I like the fact that we have people out there really taking and caring for the poor, I just don't like this conversation that we're having isn't about. There's nothing that this conversation will really do to add value to people in that situation. You know, I can just tell you when I'm extremely hungry, like I'm not, my cognitive abilities aren't the best, and that's just all of us as humans. So thank you for that. I like that.
Hello guys,
Fab,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Just hang on. Huh? There's a bit of noise, but yeah, we can. Whoa.
He sounds like Darth Vader.
Are you getting any echoes or something?
No, echo is gone, but just don't move the mic. Just hold it still. Everything is okay. It's good now. Okay, Fab, I'm going to comment here that you know what? I have no idea who you are, but anybody who hides behind a name which is not real or a picture which is not real, in my opinion, is a fake account for whatever reason. Secondly, you know, if you want to talk about the poor, the thing is, the poor will be the worst off when they get infected. God forbid.
For sure.
So you're not really thinking about the poor. You're just thinking about your charity or your whatever you do. I don't care. Your problem. But the thing is, you can get businesses back. You can get jobs back. You can somehow manage to get food. You can arrange to get through this. It's a cycle of 40 days. That's it. Our problem is in countries like America or Pakistan, the 40-day cycle has not even started. That's where the bloody problem is. We need to start the 40-day cycle. If you think opening whatever's happening out there is going to solve the problem for the poor people, you're not. You're just about to make it severely miserable for them, because God forbid, and you know, the way things are going, it's going in that direction. God forbid, once this thing goes out of control, it'll be everyone for themselves. No one's going to give a damn who's hungry or who's poor. Right now, people are still, in a position where they're willing to help, they're willing to provide, willing to take care of things. Once this thing goes south, and it is going south, it's going to be free fall. So if you think you're caring or thinking about the poor, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. Anyways, Mudassir, over to you, man.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. Great to see everyone here, and I'm reading the comments. It's really crazy. I can see there's a lot of negativity and a lot of criticism, and there's this a group of like people in Pakistan also that I've met. They don't believe what's going on is something that is caused by a virus. They think it's some kind of like Illuminati thing or something related to the Freemasons and some higher power or aliens or vampires. And I mean, I think, dude, I make comic books for a living. I make animations for a living. It's nothing what you think. It's just fairy tales. And people say, you're crazy. You're an idiot. You don't know what's right. I mean, have you seen that blog on YouTube? Have you seen that blog on Alt News Network? Have you seen that article somewhere over there? And I say, dude, I've read all the articles, but there's so much disinformation out there.
Okay, here's my point. Even if this is a Zionist conspiracy of the Illuminati, doesn't matter. The bottom line, no, even if it is, I don't know, maybe it is, who cares? The bottom line is people are dying. It still makes you bloody sick.
Right.
And people be having this whole argument,
dying,
is this natural or made in a lab? Who gives a shit? It makes you breathless. It makes your lungs collapse. Who cares who made it? Save yourself. We'll live to fight another day. We can have this discussion in 3 years if we get through this shit.
And I don't want to. I understand the comments about religion, and that's very common over here in the U.S. Is this whole faith over fear movement, and I'm not being critical of that at all. I'm going to give my take on that, which is that God gives me the ability to use common sense. God gives me the ability to protect myself. God gives me the ability to do. I still have agency in all of this. So, and that's not to take and say that miracles can't be created. I don't want to go down that road because I don't know. I just look at, God's power gives me the ability to take and protect myself. It gives me the ability to make good decisions that are in the best interest of mankind. Without getting into too much religion, the Bible is very specific in that it says the greatest of the commandments is to love one another as your neighbor. And I just think if we just practice that just a little bit more. And it's really funny that I'm saying that because I literally was just mother effing my neighbor like today because they're just too noisy all night. So I'm trying to practice that neighborly love as well.
Well, somebody in Singapore made a cake for the neighbors and said, thank you for putting up with our children during the quarantine. And Singapore is one of those countries where this makes news. So this is visuals from this afternoon. And thank God there was no audio on my dash cam because I was really, really losing my cool.
I mean, it's amazing. You can see that they've called in a self-quarantine and a curfew, but it looks as if it's business as usual. I mean, most places where I go for grocery shopping
it's more than business as usual. Usually, it's not that many people.
Yeah, and I also get really like insane sometimes. So I have like a bunch of friends that I call into, or we have a WhatsApp group. So we start sharing what we're going through, and all of them say, "Okay, dude, I went in the morning, and this was what was going on." And these were the earlier days in our area, and there were so many cases of COVID-19 in our neighborhood that we were worried. I mean, like whenever I used to go to sleep, I used to wake up from like ambulance sirens, and I was saying, "Good God, I hope it's not one of my neighbors," or near my neighborhood, and I hope. And we could not even go out. I mean, like, we couldn't see who was suffering from this, who were they taking to the ambulance, or if they need any help, maybe like send some food their way. We couldn't do anything.
Yeah, see, now here's what people are not understanding. When this thing goes ballistic, like, okay, Iran self-sabotaged themselves. For all of February and early March, there were videos coming out from Iran where people were licking walls and locks and saying, oh, we are untouchable because of our faith. And guess, what happened to Iran? Italy was taking it very lightly. They should have locked down when they had the chance. Then UK, they didn't lock down. US, I mean, I've actually stopped looking at what's going on. What's the count like in New York, Dennis?
Oh, in New York specifically, I don't know New York specifically. I've heard that we've passed the 50,000 mark in deaths. That's
in New York.
No, just in the U.S. I don't know specifically with New York. I
Even
believe the
then,
majority of them are
That's
there.
a huge number.
But I know that we're over 50,000 in the total deaths for the United States. So, and I don't know what that works out to. I hear all these arguments like per capita. It's not that bad per capita. I don't know. 50,000 people dying. I mean, we're getting up to the point. The United States is going to reach the point that COVID will have taken more lives than than soldiers that passed in Vietnam.
So New York City has 12,300 deaths. New York
That sounds
City.
right. That sounds right.
But you have to understand, I have actually walked from, one end of, downtown. I have walked all the way to the end of on the far side of Central Park, which is pretty much all of New York City.
Yeah.
Or I've walked. So it's really that big. It's really like a tiny little island. And the width, this is the length. And the breadth it's a joke. You can just do, from that end to this end, it's like a piece of cake. 13,000 deaths in that little island is insane.
Right. And if you look at where New York kind of feeds into, like where they recreate over to Maryland, to Delaware, and that eastern seaboard, like those are all hot spots now. So, and that's one of the reasons that the governors got together and shut down, travel between the states, is simply because like the people from other states were coming into other states to use the beaches and the recreational facilities and so forth. So, yeah. So it's a lot of people, and regardless of whether this is a made up thing or not, there's a lot of people in the world that have lost their lives. And to me, the argument that, well, people are going to die, people die anyway. Like, I mean, then why do we make everybody wear a seatbelt? How come in the United States we've banned smoking in all these places? So I just think that there's just a little bit of common sense that goes a long way in this. I mean, I literally told somebody, they said, oh, can we come and visit you at your house? Since everybody's off, can we come visit you at your house? I'm like, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. I said, you absolutely can come visit me. However, here's the deal. You can only come over here if you travel on a motorcycle at over 100 miles an hour, completely naked. If you make it across town driving like that, I will let you in my house. And they're like, well, that doesn't even make sense. I'm like, well, it's just as reckless. Just as reckless. So let's give some thought to what we're doing here.
Interesting comment. Read.
Oh, I had not heard of this. What
I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
Wow, I don't know.
And man, this US data, I mean, I stopped looking at this stuff. This is scary business. 999,000. It's like a million.
Yeah. FQ,
Oh
and
my
I'll say
God.
this could be a very America-centric comment. I think that sometimes we just need to kind of look at, not what the right thing to do is, because now that's a very subjective comment, but it's also like just really taking a moment to go, wait, where do my rights end and your freedoms begin? So I think that we need to kind of look at that as well. Where do my rights end and where do your freedoms and your rights begin? I just think that we need to look at that. Elevators are very dangerous in residential.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
this is okay. We were talking about self-sabotage in a different sense, but this is a classic study of self-sabotage. How humanity at large has self-sabotaged themselves.
I'd say that the biggest way that we have self-sabotaged ourselves is by justifying our dumbass behavior.
Oh
the
God,
biggest
this
way
is
that
this
we-
is this is the
That's the
next
biggest-
topic.
The mastery is, I mean, like, look at our religious clerics these days. I mean, the way they actually acted out that, oh, the mosque should be open, the prayers should be done. I mean,
Well,
at this time,
but that's, it's not here. It's
every-
not here only. In the U.S., the pastor had a whole congregation, and he managed to kill himself
Yeah.
and the wife.
Yes, he did.
and he killed himself. And it was viral on social media that one pastor who denied the coronavirus was actually a viral outbreak. He actually died of coronavirus. And I'm worried about mostly the citizens who are going for prayers these days. And even Saudi Arabia has banned all prayer timings and everything. Their only management or the people who do the cleanups, they are only attending prayers and taraweehs over there. But over here, it's total madness. Everybody wants to go to the mosque. Everybody wants to pray, and I get that. I mean, like, we're all Muslims. I also pray 5 times a day, but I'm not that insane that I'm going to risk my entire family just so that I can go and pray.
Or somebody else's family.
Yeah, and someone else's family. I mean, you
I
cannot
mean, it's not.
imagine.
I mean, you can take the infection from here to there. You could become like a bee.
And in the mosques, the number of people that are in every mosque, it ranges from between 100 people to 1,000 people, even sometimes 10,000 people during Taraweeh prayers.
Dennis, read this comment. This picture which I've put up. Just from a delivery slip.
Whoa, that's scary. I mean, like,
Yeah.
from just a piece of paper, you can get
Yeah.
infected.
Yeah. I mean, people think this is funny.
Yeah, you know, I think that I've had a very big. My biggest challenge in all of this has been the religious community, and I've seen a lot of really good. I've seen a lot of really good situations where people are taking care of each other. You know, we had churches here that like immediately were like, stay home, like turn on. We got a website set up. We're gonna live stream. You know, let's all come together this way, and it makes it. It makes it very challenging to me because my belief in the Bible is that, we're taught and instructed to follow the rulers of the land. And so regardless of whether we feel like what they're doing is correct or not, like, I just don't think, I think that there's so many things that we don't know, and we just literally want to take like, it's kind of like everybody has an opinion, but why does it really need to be said? Does your opinion really add value to anybody other than for you to be able to hear yourself talk? In many cases. So I think there's just a lot of talk. I think it makes it very confusing. As far as COVID, okay. Well, and this is the same person that was talking about you not censoring
Okay, we won't talk about religion, Dr. Fab.
right?
Why not? You know what? Bible tells you
Because
to
it's
follow
hurting
the
his feelings.
Bible tells you to follow the state whether you like it or not. And guess what? As does the Quran.
It does.
You do exactly what the state tells you, and you can't argue with it.
Well, we changed our version a little bit because we like to argue with it, but
Yeah. And Dr. Fab, this is not democracy. This is my feed. I decide what goes on and who stays. I've never had this problem about I'm an absolute dictator.
Tariq, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate your comment. I actually, just to Tariq, I was looking. I'm sitting here trying to find you. on Facebook, and so that we can connect. So if I can't connect with you, feel free to connect with me, because I appreciate your comments.
Once this ends on my Facebook feed, because Dennis, I think you need to. Why don't you just go ahead and put your dude? Your website does not have your Facebook link. I told you to get that right.
You are correct. I will get that taken care of.
Yeah.
Promise.
So or somewhere
Yeah.
you need to somewhere you need to put a link where. Why don't you go ahead and take your Facebook profile link and just put it in the comment here before we leave?
Will do.
Just do it right now, so people can
Yeah.
click on that and they can find you. So Dennis is an NLP master practitioner. He owns a business called Tyrell Coaching, which you can see on the top. Anybody needs any kind of coaching, training, executive, beginner, whatever, you're welcome to connect with him. He is my NLP coach. I got lazy, so I stopped at the practitioner. I did not become a master practitioner.
You just get busy doing other stuff.
That's my problem. Once I learn something and understand, like whatever.
Yeah, I do too.
And then-
I get squirrel brain very easily, and I get
Yeah.
easily distracted. So for sure.
Yeah, and there's just so much crap. Which you know what's okay, Dennis, help me.
Yeah.
I have so many things I need to do, so many projects. I even had this massive application project which I was working on, like little monkey, till January, and then this happened, and suddenly I just don't want to do anything, man.
Yeah.
I've abandoned. I do nothing all day, and I just bum around, and I'm like, Bina's always asking me what happened. I'm like, I don't want to do it. Is that self-sabotage?
Perhaps I think a lot of times we think it's that something is self-sabotage, but a lot of times it's just simply that we don't want to do something. I mean, my example to that is my bookkeeping. My bookkeeping for my business, like it always waits till the end of the month, and sometimes I figure out ways to go. I can push it off another week. And what it comes down to is I just don't like doing it. I mean, so is it self-sabotage? That the procrastination is, but I think what we're doing, FQ, is we're setting up to really kind of have another episode on internal motivation.
I wasn't, but I guess we did.
Awesome. I'm making a
bookkeeping
note.
is one of the most hardest things to do, even for me, because I'm an artist, and artists are not supposed to be doing bookkeeping and
Right.
even taking care of accounts. So I just start screaming out that I have to put all the bills in order, and I have to make sure that they're ready for next year's filing. But I think for artists, it's something really annoying. I mean, I hate doing it, but I have to do it. And every year when tax season comes, I get low blood pressure for 4 days or 5 days before the damn thing actually gets processed. So I think it's a natural thing that bookkeeping is something that's very hard to do. And I would say doing projects, I have 52 comic book stories that I'm currently working on, and 2 animated movie shows. And I've also stopped doing all of them. I mean, my entire team is online, and they're saying, "What's up? Please do something. Please make an illustration. Please make this. Please make that." I get called in from Facebook Messenger from, I don't know, from Nigeria even. People are asking me from Bangladesh, "Can you just make this cartoon or make some illustration?" But you just don't seem to find the energy to do it. I mean, I'm all day watching Netflix.
And kind of like the comment on the screen from Rafael, and I think what that really comes down to is that we have to take and figure out ways to make something more important to us. Because let's just be honest, we always do the stuff we want to do, whether it's good for us or not. So it's it's about a process of making something like the bookkeeping. When I have to do my bookkeeping, the truth is, I don't think about bookkeeping. I don't go, I want to think about the good feeling when I'm done. What I think about is, man, at the end of this, I get to look at my bank account. Now that I actually like doing. I like looking at my bank account. So doing my books, all I have to do is just go, man, I really I like looking at my bank account, but in order for me to look at my bank account, I got to do my books. But I liken myself to an artist as well, and just kind of a free spirit, and I like to kind of be involved in this, dabble in that, and sometimes we lose focus, and so it's just finding a way to take something a little bit more palatable to us that we don't necessarily want or like to do. It's kind of like this as a business consultant. One of the things, and I've been doing this a lot. I hope Dr. Fab doesn't come after me for this one, but tyranny. So, and this is a tyrannical comment. So, over the past 2 months, with COVID in the restaurant industry, it's fast food. So, like a lot of we ended up terminating, and I laid off a lot of people, and it wasn't that I enjoyed doing it. What I don't necessarily enjoy terminating people, but what I do enjoy is getting on the other side of that to where I can start really seeing an increase in profits. I mean, so that might not. As a business consultant, that is what people hire me to do, is to take care and manage their profitability. So I think it's all contextual. Gentlemen, I'm going to have to get going.
Yeah, I think we're done here. And we might not be on night, as Dennis has a few commitments. So tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be here. And I want to say thank you to my wife, Bina, who gave me a fantastic cut today. My hair's back in control. Guys, thank you very much. Thank you for being in touch. And we'll see you guys again day after tomorrow.
And thank you so much
Good night,
for everybody
guys.
again. And if you don't have it, go ahead and connect with me. Peace.
I posted your link. I think you have too, right?
Yes.
I have. All right, man. Cheers. Good night.
See ya.
Night.